A beloved character is gone forever, and the ending of Heartland Season 19 has left fans in complete shock. Amy Fleming, the heart and soul of the series for almost 2 decades, meets a tragic fate that no one expected. This is not just another twist. This is the kind of ending that changes everything we thought we knew about Heartland. Her death is not only heartbreaking but also deeply symbolic, marking the end of an era for the Fleming Bartlett family. But how did it all happen? And why did the writers take such a bold step? Season 19 of Heartland was full of moments that reminded viewers why Amy Fleming had always been the emotional center of the story. After years of loss, love, and rebuilding, Amy began this season with a sense of quiet strength. She had learned to live without Ty, who had passed away seasons earlier, but his memory was always present in her choices. Amy poured herself into her work with horses, carrying on her gift of understanding them in ways that no one else could. It felt like she was healing, little by little, and maybe even starting to imagine a future that was brighter. Throughout the season, Amy worked closely with troubled horses, using her unique gift to calm them and give them a second chance. These moments felt almost like a reflection of her own life. She was mending broken spirits and animals, while slowly repairing her own heart. She spent more time with her daughter, Lyndy, teaching her the same gentle patience that she had learned from her mother, Marion, and from Grandpa Jack. Viewers could feel the torch being passed to the next generation, though at that point no one could imagine what was coming. But even in these healing moments were small signs that the writers were building towards something bigger. Subtle foreshadowing appeared in Amy's conversations with Jack and Lou. She often spoke about how life can change in a moment, and how important it is to hold on to the people you love. Some fans picked up on this, sensing that these words might be more than just wisdom. They were hints of the storm on the horizon. Meanwhile, the rest of the family faced their own struggles. Lou continued to juggle her duties as mayor while trying to keep the family ranch stable. Jack, the unshakable head of the family, worried about the weight Amy carried on her shoulders. Georgie made strides in her own horse career, training with the same determination that Amy had shown at her age. Tim struggled with regrets, trying to mend broken relationships from his past while still supporting his daughters. All of these threads wove together into a season that felt grounded in family and love, but also filled with tension. As the episodes moved closer to the finale, viewers felt the pace shift. The horses Amy worked with grew more unpredictable. The ranch faced new challenges, and her family members each seemed to lean on her more heavily. The weight of being the center of everyone's healing was starting to show, even if Amy never admitted it. She often appeared quiet and reflective, gazing at the ranch as though she knew her time there was limited. Looking back, it feels like the writers were carefully preparing us for what would come, but most fans didn't realize it. By the time the final episodes approached, Amy's story felt both hopeful and fragile. She was in a place of peace, but there was an undercurrent of uncertainty. The season had given us moments of joy, moments of healing, and moments of fear. And then came the finale, a shocking conclusion that none of us were prepared for. It happened on a day that seemed ordinary, and maybe that is why it hit so hard. Amy was not out on some daring rescue or in the middle of a huge storm. She was simply doing what she had always done best, working with a horse that others had given up on. The episode built the tension quietly, almost gently, as if inviting the audience into Amy's daily life. She took Lyndy to school, shared breakfast with Jack, and even teased Lou about her busy schedule. Everything felt calm, almost peaceful. But beneath that calm was a silence that felt too heavy. Like the air before thunder, the horse she was working with that day had a troubled history. It was a stallion that had been mistreated and abandoned, carrying scars that went deeper than anyone could see. Most people wanted nothing to do with it, but Amy believed she could reach it. She'd done it countless times before. Fans watched her step into the round pen, moving slowly, speaking softly. Her hands steady and her eyes locked on the animals. This was the Amy we knew, fearless, gentle, patient. A moment it felt like just another training session. Another miracle waiting to happen, but then everything changed. The stallion reared suddenly, its power explosive, its fear uncontrollable. Amy didn't run. She stood her ground, whispering to it, her calm voice trying to cut through the storm. Inside the animal, for a heartbeat, it seemed like she was getting through, like the horse was about to settle, and then, in a flash, it struck. The moment was brutal and swift, leaving no room for her to escape. The sound of Jack shouting her name cut through the air, but it was too late. The camera didn't linger on the violence. Instead, it focused on the aftermath, the stillness of Amy lying on the ground. The horror on Jack's face as he rushed to her side, and the sudden silence of the horse, as if it too realized what had just happened. This choice by the writers made the scene even more powerful. It wasn't about the accident itself. It was about the shock, the heartbreak, and the unbearable truth that Amy was gone. Lou's reaction was one of disbelief, her voice trembling as she tried to understand what she was seeing. Georgie stood frozen, tears streaming as she clutched at the rail, unable to move. Tim's grief was raw and loud, a cry that echoed across the ranch, full of regret for every moment he had failed to be the father Amy deserved. And Jack, the rock of the family, knelt by her side with silent tears, holding her hand as if his love alone could pull her back. The moment was haunting, not because of how it happened, but because of what it meant. For 19 seasons, Amy had been the heart of Heartland. She was the bridge between family and horses, the symbol of hope after tragedy, the voice of calm in every storm. To lose her was unthinkable. Yet in that quiet, devastating scene, the unthinkable became real, and just like that, everything changed. Amy's death was not written as a random accident. The more you look at the episode, the more you realize it was surrounded by signs and symbols that carried heavy meaning. From the first scene of the finale, the camera seemed to linger longer than usual on Amy's small moments, her laugh with Lyndy, the way she hugged Jack, even the way she paused to look at the horses grazing. In the field, it was as if the writers were quietly telling us that Amy was saying goodbye. Even if she herself didn't know it, one of the most powerful symbols came from her final horse. This wasn't just an animal in need of training. It represented something bigger, a broken spirit that had suffered too much, carrying wounds from the past. In many ways, the horse was a reflection of Amy herself. She had carried pain since Ty's death. She had fought through storms of grief, and she had healed others, even while still mending inside. By facing this horse, Amy wasn't just doing her job. She was facing her own reflection. Turned violent, it was like life itself pushing back, reminding us that no one, not even Amy, can control fate forever. The scene also tied back to the earliest days of Heartland. Longtime fans remember Marion, Amy's mother, who also died suddenly in a horse accident before the series even began. That loss shaped everything: Jack's pain, Lou's responsibilities, and Amy's entire journey. By ending Amy's story, the same way the writers drew a painful circle, connecting mother and daughter through tragedy, it was a reminder that life on a ranch is beautiful, but it is also fragile. Horses give hope, but they can also take it away. The circle had closed, and that symmetry made the loss even harder to bear. Even the weather carried meaning.
The finale
Wasn't stormy or dramatic. Skies were clear. The day was calm. It was ordinary. That was the point. Death doesn't always come with thunder and warning. Sometimes it comes in silence, on a day like any other, catching everyone off guard. By showing Amy's final moments in the middle of such peace, the writers made the tragedy feel real and almost unbearable. Another layer of symbolism appeared in Amy's last words to Lyndy earlier in the episode. She told her daughter to always listen to the horses, because they will never lie to you. These words now echo with haunting weight. They were not just advice, they were a legacy. Lyndy is the future of Heartland, and those words felt like Amy passing the torch, ensuring that her gift, her spirit, and her bond with the horses would live on in the next generation. The themes of Heartland, family, resilience, healing, and loss were all tied together in this ending. Amy's death was not just about shock. It was about showing that life's beauty is inseparable from its fragility. It was about reminding us that every moment matters, because nothing is promised. It was about closing one chapter so another could begin, and perhaps that is why the ending hurts so much. It wasn't only the loss of Amy Fleming, it was the loss of what she represented: hope, healing, and the belief that love can carry us through anything. With her gone, the family must now learn to carry those values without her. And for the audience, the question becomes, can Heartland still be Heartland without its heart? The loss of Amy was not only the loss of a daughter, sister, and mother. It was the collapse of the center that held Heartland together. Every character who loved her was forced. Lou's reaction was different. She had always been the practical one, the planner, the leader. But when she saw Amy lying motionless, all of that fell away. She collapsed into tears, clutching at her sister's hand, begging her to wake up. Lou had spent her whole life trying to balance family and responsibility, but she had always counted on Amy to be the steady, calming presence that made everything possible. Without Amy, Lou felt exposed, vulnerable, even lost. For the first time, she admitted she didn't know how to keep the family together. Her grief was raw, but beneath it was fear that she wasn't strong enough to fill the space Amy left behind. Georgie's pain was more silent, but no less deep. She had grown up looking at Amy as more than just a cousin. Was her role model. Her teacher, the one who showed her how to trust herself with horses and with life. Losing her felt like losing a compass. Georgie stood frozen, unable to breathe, tears running down her face as she tried to understand how the woman who taught her everything about strength could be gone in an instant. But it was clear even then that Georgie would be changed forever. The seeds were planted for her to step into Amy's place, not as a replacement, but as the next voice to carry the legacy forward. Tim, on the other hand, could not hide his grief behind silence. His cry was loud, angry, full of regret. He had spent years making mistakes as a father, and just when it seemed like he was beginning to rebuild his relationship with Amy, she was ripped away from him. His grief was not only about losing his daughter, it was about losing the chance to make things right. For Tim, Amy's death was a cruel reminder of every moment he had wasted. His pain was the loudest, but also the most complicated, filled with guilt and self-blame that would haunt him long after the funeral. And then there was Lyndy, too young to fully understand, yet not too young to feel the absence. Her small voice, calling for her mother in the aftermath, was the sound that broke viewers the most. The writers didn't make her grief loud or dramatic, it was quiet, confused, and innocent. Lyndy looking around for Amy, not understanding why her mother wasn't. Waking up captured the pure cruelty of the moment. Amy's final words about listening to the horses became Lyndy's inheritance. Her mother's voice echoing through her even in death. Together, these reactions painted a picture of a family torn apart, each member shattered in their own way. But what made it powerful was how different their grief was: Jack's silence, Lou's collapse, Georgie's stillness, Tim's rage, Lyndy's innocence. It showed that Amy's death wasn't just one loss. It was 5 different losses each, one carving a scar on a different soul. The ranch had always been a place of healing, but now it became a place of ghosts. And the question remained, could these characters find a way to keep Heartland alive without the one person who had always been its heart? The moment Amy fell, the Heartland world split in two. On one side were the fans, sitting in shock in their living rooms, unable to believe that the woman they had watched for 19 seasons was truly gone. On the other side were the writers, who had quietly planted seeds for years, knowing that one day they would have to make the most painful decision of all. The fan reaction was immediate and explosive. Social media lit up with disbelief. Some couldn't stop crying, saying it felt like losing a family member. Others were angry, accusing the writers of destroying the very thing that made Heartland what it was. There were posts filled with denial, viewers hoping it was just a dream sequence or that Amy would somehow survive in the opening of season 20. The idea of Heartland without Amy felt impossible, like tearing the heart out of the body and expecting it to keep beating. And yet, hidden among the grief, there were voices that admitted something hard. They said the ending was cruel but powerful, that Amy's death shook them not because it was unfair, but because it was real. Heartland had always been about life in its rawest form, its beauty, its pain, its unpredictability. By taking Amy away, the writers reminded everyone that the ranch, as beautiful as it is, has always been touched by tragedy. For some fans, it was the most honest ending Heartland could give. But why did the writers make this choice? That question burned hotter than any other. Was it because of story evolution? Because after 19 seasons, Heartland needed to take a risk to keep moving forward. Some believe it was about legacy that the show needed to hand the torch to. The next generation, to Lyndy, to Georgie, and even to Lou. Killing Amy was the only way to force the other characters to grow, to step out of her shadow and to carry the story in directions it had never gone before. Others whispered another possibility. Maybe it was not about the story at all, but about the actress. Could it be that Amber Marshall, who brought Amy to life, had decided her journey was complete? If so, the writers might have had no choice but to write an ending that was final, one that no amount of rewrites could undo. If this theory is true, then Amy's death wasn't only a creative decision, it was an unavoidable turning point. The choice also echoed the beginning of the series. Heartland started with a death Marion's accident. From that loss grew 19 years of healing, family, and love. Ending Amy's story in the same way was like closing a circle. The show began with tragedy, and it may have ended with tragedy, leaving fans in the same place they started, broken but searching for hope. What is certain is that the writers wanted impact. They wanted people talking, feeling, hurting, remembering. They wanted Amy's final breath to matter. And judging by the flood of reactions, they succeeded. Because no one who watched the finale walked away unchanged, the fans were heartbroken, the writers were unflinching. And caught between them was Amy Fleming, forever the soul of Heartland. Even in death, without Amy, Heartland feels like a body, without a heartbeat. The ranch is still there, the horses are still there, and the family is still standing, but nothing feels the same. The question now is not just how the characters will move forward, but if the show itself can survive without. The woman who defined it for nearly 2 decades. Inside the story, every path forward feels uncertain. Jack may try to hold the ranch together, but how long can one man carry so much grief before it breaks him? Ilu will likely step into the role of leader, but her strength has always come from leaning on Amy. Without that balance, she might stumble. Torn between being mayor and being the anchor for her family, Georgie, still young but filled with fire, may emerge as the next voice of the horses, the natural heir to Amy's gift. But can she carry that torch without being crushed by its weight? And Lyndy, her innocence is shattered too soon, yet she might become the light that gives the family a reason to keep going. The words her mother left her about listening to the horses may grow into a prophecy, shaping her journey as the new Heart of Heartland. For the fans, the questions are just as heavy. Can a show called Heartland survive when its heart is gone? Will viewers accept a new lead, or will they drift away, unable to watch without Amy? Some believe that this is the perfect time for the series to end, closing the circle with dignity and leaving Amy's legacy untarnished. Others argue that this is the moment for renewal, for the story to evolve into something bolder, where the next generation proves that Heartland is bigger than one character, no matter how beloved. The writers themselves left breadcrumbs pointing to the future. The camera lingered on Georgie's determination, on Lyndy's wide eyes, on Jack's quiet resilience. It felt like a silent promise that Amy's spirit would not disappear, would live on in those she loved. But whether the audience will embrace that promise is another question. Some will want more seasons, desperate to see how the family heals. Others may choose to stop at season 19, remembering Amy alive, unwilling to move forward without her. And perhaps that is the hidden brilliance of this ending. By taking Amy away, the writers have forced both the family and the fans into the same place, grieving, uncertain, searching for a reason to keep going. The future of Heartland now mirrors real life. It is unclear, it is painful, but it is still open, So as the sun sets on season 19, we are left with a single haunting question. It's not just what happens next, but can Heartland still be Heartland without Amy Fleming? Amy Fleming's death was not just the ending of a season. It was the breaking of a bond that fans had carried for 19 years. She was the light in the barn, the calm voice that healed both horses and people, the reminder that even after loss, love could still bloom. Her story began with tragedy when she lost her mother, and it ended with tragedy when the ranch lost her. But in between those two moments was a lifetime of healing, growth, and hope that touched millions of viewers. Now, Heartland stands at a crossroads. The family inside the story is broken, and the fans outside it are grieving alongside them. Some believe this is the end, that the show cannot continue without Amy. Others feel her spirit is too strong to be silenced, that her legacy will live on through Lyndy, Georgie, and the others who carry her teachings in their hearts. The truth is, we don't know which path the writers will choose. All we know is that Amy's presence will never truly leave. Whether in memories, in the horses she saved, or in the family she shaped, her shadow will always stretch across the ranch.